So today, I'm a historian. I'm a war longer. I believe in war and shit happening. That really excites me. It gets my blood boiling, and I get excited when history moments, regime changes, when we topper other governments. Well, one of the wars that happened in my lifetime was the Iraqi War. Everybody knows Saddam Hussein, and well, Saddam Hussein, he was tough. He was badass, and he looked like my tío Ricardo, everybody. And the story I'm going to talk about is not about him. He cowered, and he hid under tunnels, and he cowered. He was a chavala, chavala. He wasn't a gangster. He wasn't a tough motherfucker. He didn't want to go out swinging. He was hiding under the ground, and at the end they caught him with fleas, and he didn't go out shootout or nothing. They end up hanging him, and they threw him through the jury system, which is the judges, the people, and they executed him by hanging him. And at no point he had remorse. He didn't beg or nothing, but he was a very smart person, and I admire a lot of stuff about him. The only thing I don't admire is that he cowered, and he didn't go out like bam, 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 bam. You know what I mean? Well, the story that I want to talk about that really impacted my life is Hussein and Uday, which is the two sons of Saddam Hussein. They were straight terror. They had Ferraris, Jaguars, Tigers. They used to just assassinate people, and they were fucking gangsters. I'm talking about gangsters. They tried shooting them out. They tried killing them, and they survived all these drastic shootouts. And Uday was a little paralyzed because he got shot and about 36 times and survived. And he was a woman beater, a womanizer, but al último he was a playboy, and he had gold SKSs, and fucking he had all the guns and gold plated, and he was bad. He had rocket launchers, and well, he had his son, and his son was as crazy as him too. They all had like 5 women, all right, everybody? Well, the story that I want to talk about that really motivated me and impacted me, it was like a story, It's like a Black Hawk Down movie. It's an action movie. It's how really warriors, gangsters die. They go on a shootout. Well, they weren't really hiding, and people used to fear them. People used to be scared of them. So they had one of their gunmen, and they end up staying in this mansion, and with his son, and they had guns up the ass. They had rocket launchers. They had everything. They were gonna go out on a shooting blaze, A lot of people expected them to cower or to flee for their lives or anything. Well, they didn't. They end up people end up ratting them out, and they end up coming to that mansion. It reminds me of Pablo Escobar, Noriega, Gaddafi, all these Saddam Hussein, Bin Laden, and on and on and on and on and on. But Uday and Hussein, they made a pact, and they said that they were gonna go out on a blaze shooting. They weren't gonna be cowards, and they were gonna be chapalas. They were gonna be true to their name. And reminds me a lot of Los Hijos del Chapito, when they had all that Sinaloa over there, shootouts, everything. Reminds me of all these cartels, Los Zetas, La Nueva Generación, how they have shootouts and killings in Tijuana, Juarez, and they just fucking bum-ass fucking persons, While the military end up surrounding the mansion, and they end up having all these guns, and they shot for like about 4 to 6 hours, and they had tanks, and they had all these fucking army guys, that Delta Force and the Green Berets, and that had a shootout with them. It was like in the movies, just gun blazing and shootout non-stop, pure action. And they end up at the end, United States end up bringing the tanks, and they fucking blew them up. And even though when they were dying, they still picked up their arms and they still fought. That's what you call a gangster. That's what you call a true life fucking gangster. And I love stories like that. And it was like The Godfather, They say that they're gonna go out on a blaze, and he did. So I just wanna tell everybody that it's awesome hearing all these stories and living day by day, and no one gets to tell me. I get to live it, I get to experience it, and it's as if I'm there. And everybody's dream is to do it like that, like Scarface, like Tony Montola. Say hello to my little kid, like that. So Uday and Hussein, they fucking lived up, and I'll always remember that day. And I remember I couldn't stop watching the movies, the news, I meant. And I've lived some crazy live events, and it's as if I was transported to there, and I was living it on live TV, and I felt the gunshots, I felt the pain, I felt the excitement, I felt the sadness, I felt the historic, the movement, and they lived up to expectation. And if you have the chance, go ahead and watch this video, and I'm gonna post up a little bit of them. And I lived it, everybody. Same thing like 9/11. I lived it. It was very impactful. It was very hard. It was crazy to watch, and we got to see the dead bodies and how they dragged them out and all, Like I say, it was like a Scarface, Tommy Montola, like something out of this world. And, I lived it, and this is my my tribute to them. And no way I'm honoring them, like, but I gotta give them my respeto. I gotta give them. They went out on a shootout blaze, and they made a movie of them, and can't wait until you guys have your own stories and get to tell everybody else. So Vanessa or anybody that's watching these videos, this is what I live for. This is why I vote. This is why I am the way I am. I don't believe in being a shit talker, a chavala, or and I believe in respeto, and I believe that in honor and doing it the right way. And that's why I don't ask for help. That's why I resolve my situation, and that's why I acknowledge and respect myself, and I admire myself también, everybody. Well, I hope you guys like this story, and more stories to come.
July 2003, a quiet villa in Mosul, Iraq, held a secret more explosive than any weapon. Inside were two of the most feared men in the country, Uday and Qusay Hussein, Saddam's brutal sons. They had vanished when Baghdad fell. But when US forces finally found them, they didn't come quietly. Before we continue this chilling true story, subscribe right now to the Crime Rooms. Hit the bell and tell us in the comments what you think. We reply to every message because your voice matters and you're part of our community. On March 20th, 2003, the US invaded Iraq with one mission: to take down Saddam Hussein. Baghdad collapsed in weeks. Saddam vanished into thin air, and so did his sons. Uday Hussein, born in 1964, was known for his cruelty. He once beat a man to death with a club, and that man was his father's personal servant. He controlled Iraq's Olympic Committee, the media, and lived in outrageous luxury. But behind his gold-covered walls was a man accused of rape, torture, and murder. His younger brother, Qusay, was quieter, but more dangerous. Born in 1966, he ran the intelligence services, secret police, and the brutal Republican Guard. He was the architect of deadly crackdowns after the Gulf War. For Saddam, Qusay was the true heir. After the regime's fall, the US launched one of the largest manhunts in history. To help identify the most wanted, they created a bizarre deck of cards. Saddam, Ace of Spades. Uday, Ace of Hearts. Qusay, Ace of Clubs. And the reward, unheard of, $15 million for each son. $30 million total. A bounty that turned the whole country into a potential informant. But even with money on the table and boots on the ground, they vanished. Some thought they had crossed into Syria. Others believed tribal leaders were hiding them. But the truth, they were right there, in plain sight. They fled north to Mosul, Iraq's second largest city, and a Ba'athist stronghold. It was filled with Saddam loyalists. A place where secrets were currency, a perfect hiding spot. At first, Uday and Qusay used separate safe houses, moving constantly. Only the most trusted insiders knew where they were. But eventually, they landed in the home of Nawaf al-Zaidan, a businessman tied to Saddam's inner circle. Nawaf's house was in the Al-Fala neighborhood. 3 floors, thick walls, metal doors. It blended in with the surroundings, but inside, it was a fortress. Qusay brought his 14-year-old son, Mustafa. No one knew why. Maybe for protection. Maybe he just couldn't leave him behind. But hiding with a child added a chilling layer to an already deadly equation. By mid-July 2003, pressure was building. The $30 million reward was getting harder to ignore. Nawaf began to crack. Maybe fear pushed him. Maybe greed. But on July 21st, he made a call that would change history. Through a go-between, he told the US that Saddam's sons were hiding in his home. He gave the exact location, confirmed they were still there, and asked for full protection and every dollar of the bounty. The US didn't jump immediately. They'd had false tips before. But this one, it felt real. Nawaf knew details. His ties to the regime made it credible. A surveillance team was sent. They scouted the neighborhood, observed the villa from afar. By nightfall, they were nearly certain the target was inside. Command gave the green light. This wouldn't be a quiet arrest. They were ready for a war. July 22nd, 2003, 10:30 a.m., Delta Force commandos from Task Force 20 surrounded the home, supported by the 101st Airborne. Snipers on rooftops, armored vehicles in the streets, Apache helicopters overhead. Civilians were cleared out. The neighborhood locked down. Through loudspeakers, the Americans gave one last chance. Come out, surrender. You will be treated fairly. Silence. Then, a burst of gunfire from inside the villa. Windows exploded. Bullets ripped through walls. The fight had begun. Inside, the brothers had fortified the upper floors. They used their height advantage, rifles, grenades, and raw determination. Even Mustafa, the 14-year-old, was reportedly armed. This would not be a simple extraction. This was war. The Americans fired back with machine guns, grenade launchers, and AT-4 rockets. Concrete shattered. Smoke filled the streets. Assault teams tried to breach the house, but every attempt was met with bullets and fury. Every step closer, more blood, and then came the call, bring in the airstrike. If you think it's intense so far, just wait, because what comes next will chill you to the bone. The battle for the villa in Mosul wasn't just a firefight, it was a message that even the blood of a dictator could bleed. What began as a targeted raid quickly turned into one of the deadliest urban shootouts of the Iraq War. US forces had surrounded the house. They gave the suspects a chance to surrender, but the response was bullets. And so, the siege began. From inside the house, Uday and Qusay Hussein launched a furious defense. They held the upper floors, using their elevated position to fire down on American troops. They had rifles, grenades, and what seemed like endless ammo. Even Qusay's 14-year-old son, Mustafa, was reportedly carrying a weapon. Outside, chaos reigned. Smoke filled the air. Shouts echoed through the streets. Concrete shattered from the blast of American rockets. And still, the resistance didn't break. Task Force 20 called for heavy firepower. Apache helicopters from the 101st Airborne appeared overhead. Their rotors thundered through the sky, drowning out the sounds of gunfire. Then came the first Hellfire missile. It struck the second floor with surgical precision. The explosion ripped through the building, walls collapsed, debris flew into the air. But the gunfire didn't stop. The Hussein brothers were still alive. They moved from room to room, firing as they went. They used flipped furniture and door frames as makeshift cover. They knew the house. They were fighting like men who didn't plan to walk out. A second Hellfire was launched, this time into the roof. Another explosion, more rubble. Still, silence refused to fall. From behind the flames, bullets kept coming. The brothers weren't just fighting, they were making a final stand for pride, for legacy, or maybe just for the pure refusal to be captured alive. Every time US troops approached a door or window, they were met with another wall of fire. Injuries began to mount. Some soldiers were shot. Others were wounded by shrapnel and falling debris. Evacuation teams dragged the injured behind armored vehicles. Medics worked on the spot. But the mission pressed on. They couldn't afford to fail. Not here. Not now. The entire world would be watching the outcome of this standoff. Hours passed. The fight dragged into the late afternoon. By 4:02 p.m., the sounds of gunfire finally ceased. No more shots from the villa. No movement. Just smoke and silence. The ground troops prepared for final entry. They didn't rush in, not after 6 hours of hell. They suspected booby traps, explosives, or even one last ambush. But inside, the fight was over. The villa was in ruins. Walls blown apart. Floors collapsed. Fire-damaged ceilings sagged. And amidst the wreckage, 4 bodies were found. 2 adult men, 1 teenage boy, 1 male bodyguard. 1 body had a bullet wound to the head. Likely the final kill shot. Mustafa, Qusay's son, had multiple gunshot wounds. He had fought and died beside his father. The soldiers immediately began identification. Photos were taken and sent to intelligence. This wasn't just a kill. It was a symbolic moment in modern military history. They needed to be absolutely certain. Military experts analyzed facial features, bone structure, scars. They checked dental records, medical files, surgical implants. Uday had a noticeable limp from an assassination attempt years earlier. Metal rods in his leg made him unmistakable. Qusay had his own set of medical identifiers. The verdict confirmed Uday and Qusay Hussein were dead. The teenager was Mustafa. The 4th man was their loyal bodyguard. On July 24, 2003, the US military held a press conference. The world heard the news. Saddam's heirs were gone. To silence rumors and conspiracy theories, graphic photos of their bodies were released. Some considered it in poor taste. Others called it necessary. But in Iraq, the reaction was immediate. In Baghdad and southern Iraq, crowds celebrated. Gunshots into the air. Cheers. People cried, not in grief, but in relief. To them, this wasn't just a victory, it was closure. The sons who had ruled through terror were gone. But in northern Iraq, the mood was different. Some tribes mourned, others denied the deaths. Rumors spread that body doubles had been killed. Some believed the Americans staged it all. Yet as forensic proof poured out, even the most loyal doubters had to accept the truth. The Hussein dynasty had lost its future. The bodies were secretly flown to Tikrit, Saddam's hometown. They were buried without ceremony under tight security. No public funeral, no markers, no fanfare, just dirt and silence. Why? Because the US feared these graves could become shrines, rallying points for insurgents. By erasing the location, they erased the symbol. Meanwhile, the man who sold them out, Nawaf al-Zaydan, disappeared. He was quietly paid the $30 million reward, making him one of the highest paid informants in history. His name was never officially revealed by the US, but in Iraq, it leaked anyway. Where did he go? Some say Europe. Others claim he started over in the Gulf. A new identity, a new life, and a past he can never escape. The villa in Mosul, reduced to ash and broken concrete, locals reported broken windows and cracked walls in the neighboring homes. Some were injured, none killed, at least not civilians. The US military claimed they did everything possible to limit collateral damage. But in war, there are no perfect endings. The deaths of Uday and Qusay marked a turning point in the Iraq War. They proved that no one was untouchable. Yet, the violence didn't stop. The insurgency would rise stronger. The chaos would deepen. But for many Iraqis, that day, that brutal, fiery